Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Lianas Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Delvecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing in the senior living industry.
And I'm Corrie, a clinical social worker and psychotherapist specializing in grief and loss.
Coming right up on the first half of today's show, have you ever been involved in trying to settle an estate? It's not an easy task, and we'll be discussing some extremely helpful tips and advice regarding estate settlement, and perhaps more importantly, what you can do right now for proper estate planning. Talk about planning, Corrie. You, like many other people, are trying to get adjusted to both booster shots and travel. You're getting it doing both this weekend, aren't you?
I think so. I hope so. You know, I'm an AstraZeneca recipient, so I'm eligible for the booster shot, and I'm very happy to take it. At the same time, with the new travel restrictions and them changing almost, hourly, minute by minute, the anxiety of traveling can be quite overwhelming because you don't know, are they going to accept a test? What's the new quarantine laws? It's really something.
Yeah. No, it is. And you know what? We just got to take it a day at a time and adjust accordingly like you're doing. All right. What do we have coming up on the second half?
On the second half, we continue with our Helping Moms and Dads segment. This week, navigating our healthcare system can be very challenging, especially when it comes to accessing services from the CLSC. So thankfully, we have Matt Delvecchio, who's going to lend us his expertise and offer us some relevant information on this topic. All of that is coming up after the 3:30 news.
Yeah, looking forward to that. All right. Estate settlement can be a nightmare, really, if you don't know what you're doing. And let's face it, it's not something that happens every day. And most people go into the settling of an estate without much knowledge on the procedures and methods. And many times, the challenges of settling an estate can be made much easier if we just happen to properly plan our estate planning. So well before the death of a loved one. So here to tell us more is the co-founder and CEO of Clear Estate, Davide Pisanu. Davide, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you. You've got something here very, very interesting that we want our listeners to know about. So let's start right off the bat with what are some of the biggest challenges with settling an estate?
Well, you mentioned it, like settling an estate is complex and time consuming. And we estimate that most people that enter this estate settlement process spend more than 400 hours over the course of 2 years doing the work of settling their loved one's estate. There's tons of forms to fill. There's banks to deal with, courts, governments, insurance companies, pensions. The information very often is very hard to find. And all of this is done in a moment of grief and also in a context where you're managing complex family relationships. So put all of that together and it can make quite a nightmare.
Oh my gosh, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. As a grief counselor, I'm working with families all the time that are struggling with this. I heard you mention about 400 hours. Is that for like a basic, simple estate, or is that a more complex estate?
We tend to find that the value of the estate is not correlated with its complexity. Sometimes people have difficult situations, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they have a lot of money or that they have complex situations from a financial asset standpoint. It's really just the time that's required to manage the bureaucracy and the procedures of various institutions, and it takes a lot of time.
You're listening to Life Unrehearsed with Matt and Corrie, and that's the voice of Davide Pisanu. He's the co-founder and CEO of Clear Estate, and trying to put things a little clearer for us in regarding estate settlement and planning. Davide, it does take a lot of time, incredible a number of hours, and if you haven't gone through this, you probably have no idea what you're in for. And what I'd also like to do, in addition to the number of hours, it is quite costly. Are there industry stats about what the average cost would be to settle an estate?
Yes, so we have numbers in North America, so U.S. and Canada. The numbers are almost the same. It's between $10,000 and $12,000 to settle an estate, and that includes all the professional fees, lawyers, accountants, notaries, and some of the filing fees for probate, for example, in Ontario. So put all of that together, it's between $10,000 and $12,000.
Oh my gosh. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. Okay. Let me ask you something. I also want to know that when we're settling an estate, what is the most relevant tasks that have to happen? Like is there a particular order?
So typically, what you start with is first notifications. So first notifications are all the notifications to CPP, OAS, and so on and so forth. So there's a basic series of people you need to, or bodies you need to notify. Then the phase after is what we call a discovery phase. Most people don't have a neat little book where they have listed everything that they've got, and all the documents are well organized in one place. So when you're settling a loved one's estate, when you're the executor or the liquidator in Quebec, you have to gather all of that information and then go through a process. Probate in Ontario and Quebec is a little bit easier because we have notaries. And then you're basically authorized to go on and liquidate the assets, pay the debts, and distribute the money to the beneficiaries. Then there's taxes to be filed, and the CRA or Revenue Quebec don't let you go easily. So you're personally liable for the taxes as the liquidator until you get a clearance certificate from the tax authorities. And then the beneficiaries can ask you for full accounting on the estate. So when things go well, there's no problem. But when sometimes you have difficult family situations, that can turn ugly. So those are basically the big blocks or the big things that you need to do in selling a loved one's estate.
That's Davide Pisanu talking to us about some of the issues people are facing when dealing with estate settlement. And we're also going to talk about some estate planning later on, Davide, and you talked about discovery. There are so many different things that have to be figured out, and always best to be prepared in advance and as opposed to leaving someone just hanging there and trying to figure everything out. And there's so many different tasks that we're going to talk about. But you mentioned one thing, Davide, about probate. Now, I hear about probate. I also operate in Ontario. I hear it a lot more there. I don't hear it too much more in Quebec. So what is probate, and what's the difference in Ontario and Quebec, I guess?
Yeah, so probate, so when you have, some people have wills, some people don't have wills, and therefore probate is when there is a will. It's the process through which the distribution plan, according to the will, is quote unquote authorized or approved by the court. And if there is no will, then that plan or that distribution plan to the beneficiaries is dictated by law. So basically, you have a piece of document that authorizes you as the executor in Ontario to go see banks, liquidate assets, close bank accounts, so on and so forth. So you need that piece of paper. In Quebec, we're lucky, we have notaries, and the notaries actually do probate in Quebec. So we don't use that word, but it's essentially the same function.
So it's really, because we have notaries in Quebec, they are doing that process. Okay, so that makes sense. I very rarely hear the word in Quebec, but it's really the job of the notaries. It makes sense.
When it comes to probating, because I'm still not clear, how is this a long process?
Well, in Ontario, you can have fun and go see on the Ontario government website. There's 75 forms to applicate.
Oh my God!
For probate, it can be quite a difficult process. As I said, I think that the hardest thing is that discovery phase where you need to list all of the assets, list all of the liabilities, and essentially that's a way also for governments to collect tax, a probate fee, a probate tax. And that's kind of like the long part of the process. In Quebec, you're supposed to do the same thing, but you don't have to go to court. The notary can actually authorize you to go about and liquidate the assets.
Listening to Life Unrehearsed, it's Matt and Corrie here, and we're talking to Davide Pisanu. He is the co-founder and CEO of Clear Estate. We're going to hear about what Clear Estate does. You really do have something special here, Davide, that we want our listeners to hear about. We have to head out to traffic, Davide. Davide. But one question that we wanted to ask, so far we've talked about estate settlement, but probably even more important, estate planning can make the process so much easier. So when we come back, we'd like to hear your comments and opinion on doing an effective estate planning procedure. But first, let's head out to the CJAD Traffic Center with Jill Fitzgerald.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Lianas Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.
Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Corrie Sirota along with Matt Delvecchio, and we are talking about taking care of business, that's for sure. We're talking about estate planning and estate settlement with Davide Pisanu, co-founder and CEO of Clear Estate. Davide, how can proper estate planning make this process easier?
Well, it's night and day. A well-planned estate is dramatically easier to settle, and we like to say that planning your estate is an act of love. So first, having a will makes things slightly easier. Having a clear will much easier. And a valid will as well. Most people don't realize, but their wills sometimes are not valid, so that's important. But that's not all. Planning goes well beyond having a will. I was talking earlier about having a consolidated repository of information and documents. And that just makes the life of the liquidator or the executor down the line so much easier. So when the instructions are clear, if all the information is in one place and everything is thought through, including rights of survivorships and beneficiary rights, if all of this is well planned and put together, it's never a fun time to settle somebody's estate, but it makes it so much easier.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Davide, I was very blessed to have been brought through. I had a one-on-one session with one of your associates last week on your company called Clear Estate, and they brought me through the whole process, and it blew me away. And really, congratulations what you've got here. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about Clear Estate. And there's two primary functions that you're doing. You're doing estate settlement as well as estate planning. So let's start with the process of estate settlement. And you've talked about the number of hours and the costs involved in settling an estate. How can Clear Estate help us?
Well, our mission at Clear Estate is to completely transform the way estates are settled. So we've gathered a team of incredible professionals, estate professionals, that are there to help Canadians navigate the process and do the heavy lifting of managing the paperwork and the notices and the accounting and the taxes and the notifications and so on and so forth. And we've empowered these individuals with a very powerful technological platform that automates and streamlines the process for Canadians. And both of those things together allow us to help families and support families through the estate settlement process at a fraction of the cost of what typical professionals will charge.
When you mentioned gathering all the information and consolidating it, do you have a suggestion about where this information should be consolidated to, like a location or a drawer, or what do you mean?
You can do like my dad and store all of your documents in a box in the basement. But I think in the 21st century, what I would suggest is using a service like Clear Estate. What we offer to the market is a digital vault where we will walk through with the planner everything that's required to settle the estate in the future. We will consolidate all of that information on our platform, and then when the moment of somebody's when somebody passes away, then the liquidator or the executor down the line can just log into our platform, and all of the information is right there. And I wouldn't say that it's as easy as pressing a button, but it's a hell of a lot easier to settle the estate once everything is organized digitally and readily accessible for processing and notifications and so on and so forth. So now, if you're not comfortable with a digital solution, then a good old vault at home, a safe where all of the information is stored, And by information, I mean marriage certificates, I mean deeds to the houses, life insurance policies, so on, pensions, so on and so forth. So all of this should be in one place, well organized, and well tied to the estate plan or to the will.
This is Davide Pisanu, co-founder and CEO of Clear Estate. And Corrie, like I mentioned last week, I was privileged to, in preparing for this segment, I wanted to know a little bit more about it. And I saw that digital vault, and it was really eye-opening. Just the number of things that they ask you to look into. It's just incredible. Dozens and dozens of addresses, passwords, information that's required. So I really like that part, Davide. Now, let's shift gears a little bit to estate planning, because Clear Estate can also help you with estate planning, can't they?
Yes. So as I said, an estate plan is both a will and a bit of a financial plan around estate planning, and an organization of the information in a way that makes it much easier for your future loved ones, for the future executors of your estate, and we use technology and again trained professionals to help people plan their estate, organize their affairs, store their information in one place where it's readily available, making the life of their families much easier down the line.
So do you ever run into people that are concerned about safety or security, rather?
Yes, of course, and we have a high threshold of security. We have very serious investors. We deal with banks, insurance companies, and financial institutions. So we have the highest standards of security. And in the 21st century, the reality is that information held in paper at home is probably not as secure actually as information held in a properly secured digital vault. So it is top of mind for us, and we maintain the highest standards of security, and our servers won't ever burn or disappear or get stolen. So the information is kept for your loved ones in the future.
We're talking estate planning with Davide Pisanu, co-founder and CEO of Clear Estate. Davide, we're running out of time here, but bring me through the process. If I look you up, I call a number, what happens? Yes, I need help. Are you actually assigning an advisor to me to handhold, or how does it work?
Yes. So every person that comes to us, and you can come to us at clearestate.com, you can book a free consultation with one of our advisors, and we'll walk you through everything that's required to be done, both on the planning and the settlement side. There's always real individuals that are right there to help, and a powerful technological platform to support and make things easier and faster and cheaper for Canadians.
Well, we want to. You really have something special here. I would encourage everyone to check it out. If you do need some helpful advice from estate planning, and really want to wish you the best of luck and continued success. I know a ton of work went into this with you and all the stakeholders, Davide. So we want to thank you for joining us here on Life Unrehearsed.
Thanks for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Well, thank you very much. That's Davide Pisanu. He's the co-founder and CEO of Clear Estate. Corrie, quite interesting, and a lot of people having to go through this, and people think, oh boy, we have to wait until the death of someone to go through this process, and far from it. It's you could really be proactive in advance with your planning.
I agree. Why not? Why wait? Right? We wait. Yeah. We wait for the crisis. No, I like this idea. I'm all about planning.
Nothing to lose. All right. What do we have coming up on the second half here, Corrie?
Coming up on Life Unrehearsed, having to navigate our healthcare system can be very challenging, especially when it comes to accessing services from the CLSC. You will want to listen, as we will be providing some very helpful hints and advice on how to access healthcare services through the CLSC with our very own Matt Delvecchio.
Yeah, I just want to also mention that it's also going to be a feel-good story. There's so much negativity between, in the media about nursing homes and our healthcare system, but we're also going to be doing a shout-out to our workers. They're doing the best they can. So we want people to text in to 514-800. So we want to hear about some of the feel-good stories about about some of the services that you might have accessed through the CLSC, because it isn't all doom and gloom. It's challenging, no doubt about it, but I've had a lot of people come to me and say, you know what, Matt, they actually were pretty helpful. So 514-800, we want to get your text for some of the actual feel-good stories as we head into the holiday season and the holiday spirit, Corrie. And that's going to be coming up after the 3:30 CTV News.